Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday, Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic. This is number 105 since we started back on March 18th, 2020. So good afternoon. My name's Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. So what are we going to do today? March 16th, 2022. Well, we're going to start talking about a little program we mentioned over the last couple of months that's now getting a lot of traction, and we're actually starting to accept applications for the California Dream Fund program. And this is a program being administered through our Central California SBDC region. We'll provide you some more updated information on that particular program. Also yesterday, we had some new eidl changes, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. You know, that popular SBA program that came out, very first pandemic relief program in March of 2020. There have been changes to that program based on what has happened with the pandemic over the time, and we'll go through some of those. We'll talk again a little bit about the Kern micro grant funding and the application process for the Kern micro grant program, and kind of an update on what's going on with the application status and funding for that particular program. We got a great update coming on some many very positive, very great things happening in the Eastern Sierra region. So we're going to bring in a couple of fine individuals that are in Bishop right now, a place that I had planned on being today. And unfortunately, and I am not. I'm semi-heartbroken about that. But we're going to get a great update on what's going on in the Eastern Sierra, some of the great entrepreneurship programs that have been initiated and started, and an update on the plan to do even more. So a couple of great speakers, Thea Chase and Miquela Beall, will be joining us shortly. Also, we'll have an update on other open pandemic relief programs. And as always, please put your questions in the Q&A box. There'll be some resources that are added to the chat box by our executive producer, Maureen Busher-Dang. And also, we're going to have our poll as always. And so, you know, since I can't be in Inyo County today in person, and I regret that, I figured it was time to do something with our poll that would reflect a little bit of the Eastern Sierra. So our first poll question, as you view, actually, this is a picture from the Whitney Portal, which is a store, hostel, hotel, and really the gateway to Mount Whitney, which you see pictured there, owned by really a legend in the Eastern Sierra, Doug Thompson. But there is a great picture of Mount Whitney, which is going to be the basis of our very first poll question. And let's talk a little bit about the very first poll question. And there you see Mount Whitney, which is the highest peak in the 48 contiguous US states. The very highest point in Inyo County, Mount Whitney, 14,505 feet. So your question today is, now that you know the highest peak, what is the lowest point in the 48 contiguous United States? Would that be the Badwater Basin of Death Valley? Would it be the Salton Sea? Would it be Frisco, Texas, or somewhere in Kansas? I think this is kind of a layup for those in the Eastern Sierra that know this answer. Oops, was that a hint? But a little more difficult for some of us that are a little more challenged in the San Joaquin Valley and elsewhere in other parts, Central Coast of other parts of California. So our question today, at minus 282 feet, what is the lowest point in the 48 contiguous United States of America? Okay, we have 70% of you that have already got in and are participating. And so let's end this poll. Let's end this poll right now with 79% of you in, and share the results with you. And 74% of you say the Badwater Basin in Death Valley, California, Death Valley National Park, and that is correct. So rather unique that you have both the highest points and the lowest points in the United States, the 48 contiguous United States in Inyo County. But there it is. 16% of you thought maybe the Salton Sea. Frisco, Texas, 5%, and somewhere in Kansas, which does make sense, but is not the correct answer. So thank you for participating in our first of two really, I think, fun, geographically challenging poll questions for today. So that's the end of our first poll question. And we will move on to our second poll question. And our second poll question today is going to reflect another part of the Eastern Sierra, and this being a view of the White Mountains. And what you're seeing in the background is White Mountain Peak in the White Mountains in far Eastern California. And it is one of only two 14,000 foot plus peaks in California that are not located in the Sierra Nevada. Now, you already know Mount Whitney's in the Sierra Nevada, but on the other side of Highway 395, for that matter, is the White Mountain Peak. So what is the other peak that is not in the Sierra Nevada? There are 12 such peaks. Is it Mount Muir, Mount Russell, or is it Mount Shasta? So we're looking for the other peak that is not in the Sierra Nevada, which is over 14,000 feet in elevation. And we have three choices: Mount Muir, named after the great John Muir, father of Yosemite and many other environmental causes in that area; Mount Russell, and also Mount Shasta. So 12 peaks in California, over 14,000 feet. Two of them are not there. One of them is not in the Sierra Nevada range. And so we have 74% of you participating. Let's end this poll. And you guys are killing it today. 80% of you correctly identified Mount Shasta, which is in the Cascade range. The Cascades dip out of Oregon and down into Northern California. So 80% of you thought Mount Shasta correctly. 10% each of you went for Mount Muir and Mount Russell. So kind of a graphic, fun geographic presentation. The White Mountains are in both Inyo and Mono County, but I do know, for those of you that think I'm going to make a mistake here, that the White Mountain Peak is actually in Mono County. Okay, so that's it for our poll questions for today. Appreciate you participating, and let's move along. Oh, and one last picture before we go. And this is actually the summit hut up on White Peak Mountain on a day that you will notice is kind of, balmy, considering you're up there pretty high in elevation. A non-windy day, I would assume, based on the shorts and a little bit of the short sleeve shirts. Okay, on to the business at hand, as we like to say. And so today we're going to just talk a little bit about the three of the four programs at the top in a little bit more detail. So we'll save those. The California Dream Fund. What you're going to want to do if you're interested in this program that is for potentially grants for $5,000 to $10,000, contains free training, free technical assistance, and is open to all individuals who want to start a business in the 14 county Central California region. Send an email of interest to the CA SBDC, and that is at ucmerced.edu. And they will start your process. We'll go through a little of the application process, a little bit to show you what you're in store for. We'll have a quick update on the Kern Micro Grant Program. We'll also talk about the eidl loan closed, but some significant changes yesterday, including a 30-month deferment now. We'll mention right now the Mono County Grant and Forgivable Loan Program, that it is open, and our advice to you is to see one of two Jeffs, either Jeff Simpson, the Economic Development Manager for Mono County, or Jeff Lucas, who is their consultant working on putting together those packages for those interested in the Mono County Grant and Forgivable Loan Program. We'll also mention a little bit about the Employee Retention Credit Program. The ERC is open retroactively. It did end for technical purposes on September 30th, but you can still apply. We have the City of Bakersfield Restart Loan to Grant Program, and it is open. You can see our friends at Access Plus Capital or the Kern Women's Business Center, and they will help you with the City of Bakersfield Restart Loan to Grant Program. We have the money coming out of the US Treasury as part of the last stimulus program, ARPA, and that is the Small Business Credit Initiative, and basically $10 billion out of the Treasury, of which 1.18 billion will find its way to the state of California. And it will be used to enhance two major loan programs and also some venture programs that are coming, potentially some venture capital type programs that will come out of that. We will have more on that when the state is a little more forthgiving with the information. We also don't have much going on right now with PPP forgiveness. I think everybody is about done with that. But if you aren't, it is due 10 months from the end of the covered period. And I did receive an email this week on that. So still, you have to remember that if you have a PPP loan, it needs to be forgiven for it to be turned into a grant and go away. Even if it's after the 10 months from the end of your covered period, you can still apply and still go through that process. Some individuals are still going through an appeals process if they did not receive the amount of forgiveness from PPP that they were desiring. And lastly, unfortunately, we thought we were going to get some more restaurant revitalization funds. Unfortunately, it was not in the omnibus bill last week, and so those are gone. Okay, so a little bit about the California Dream Fund. Again, this was a $35 million program from the state of California. There's, I believe, somewhere around 15, 18 groups in California that are doing these particular grants. It's to seed entrepreneurship and small business creation in underserved communities, 5,000 to 10,000 per grant. You know, again, there's the training program, there's a business planning component of it, there's one-on-one consulting, and that's to be considered for the grant. Necessarily completing the training, the business plan, the consulting will not automatically qualify you for this. You will get more information from the lead center at UC Merced. And you can send them an email to start the application process. So again, send that email right there if you're interested. After all that is completed, the application will go to lendistry.com, who will actually be the actual funder of these particular grants. So before I move on to the actual Kern Small Business Micro Grant, let me just do a quick change here and actually show you a little bit of a little flow chart of this Dream Fund. And here's the California Dream Fund now, I believe you're seeing. And the California Dream Fund, so you need to register for the program, and then there will be an intake and eligibility verification process. There'll be the training programs that are submitted and offered to you, and then the one-on-one consulting, which includes live planning for your business plan and completing that business plan, and then verifying all that. And then the grant application is submitted to lendistry.com, where it is potentially funded. So scrolling down a little bit quickly here, you know, you have to have not been considered in business or been trying to start a business since July 1, 2019. Next week, we'll get into, when I have a little bit more time, we'll get into what the SBDC programs consider someone to be in business. And it might surprise you because it includes things like all of your business licenses and registrations. It includes having a sale or hiring an employee or taking on debt, but we'll get into that next week. And that's kind of the process right there of what we go through. And with it all culminating in going to Lendistry to where it is put up for funding and the opportunity to be funded. So that is a little bit about that particular program. Getting back to the Kern Micro Small Business Grant Program, many of you know that we started taking applications last month. They're for up to $2,500. You had to be in business on 12/31/2019. It had to be your main source of income for the individual that is applying. So side gigs, side hustles, moonlighting, all those fun things that were self-employment wise. If you had another job that provided you more income, you are not eligible. Certain nonprofits are eligible and others are not. You could not have had over 5 employees. And again, the intent of this program is to provide the smallest and neediest businesses in Kern County that missed out on the California micro grant program with some funding. So you can call our office for more information. There is our number for the micro grant program. And then lastly, what I'm going to talk to you about before I bring in our guest speakers are going to be a few changes that happened in the eidl program as of yesterday. So many of you did not hear about these. We did not promote, we were going to talk about this, but it is something that I just want to bring to your attention before we provide more detailed information next week. So yesterday, the big change in the eidl program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which has seen just a lot of business activity over the last few years. We saw an extended period of time for the loan deferment. Now is 30 days from the date of your note. So you can actually now move forward 30 days before you will be making, 30 months before you will be making any payments from the date of when you signed your note. So, it's really beneficial to those that are in hard hit sectors and other areas that have these particular loans. We've seen the recent supply chain and inflationary challenges that have affected small businesses to a large extent more than bigger businesses. So the deferment period is for all eidls going back to 20 and 21 and 22. One of the things also that you'll need to do is you will not need to make payments if you were already starting to. However, you can make it a payment if you would like to. So that is optional on your part. One of the things that we'll get into is the deferment could result in a balloon payment. So if you defer this out, say 2.5 years, then at the end of the term of the 30-year loan, you could still have a balance that is due after 27.5 years or 30 years from when you signed your note. So we can talk about that in more detail. And then lastly, just one other thing to mention is that we're starting to see now SBA actually target those that might want additional eidl funds. So the SBA COVID Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or eidl, we're seeing clients that are starting to receive a letter from SBA. And I imagine that these are targeted and generated based on the information that they have on certain borrowers in certain industries with certain financial needs that weren't maybe met with their original eidl. And so they can actually get an increase in some of the working capital and based on other factors. So that is something that you might see coming your way. And it is something that you can go into your portal if you still want to increase the size of your eidl loan. That loan is going to be at 3.75%. And I'm sure as we move forward, you will see, you will not be seeing 3.75% interest rates. So a few more details. The 800 number we've thrown around a lot, but right now what I want to do is I want to bring in our 2 guest speakers talking about our exciting project on the Eastern Sierra. That's the Eastern Sierra Small Business Resource Center. And a lot of the events going on in Inyo County. So let me first introduce Thea Chase. Known Thea for many years. She's a consultant mentor and board member for high growth companies around the US. She has started and run regional ecosystem building programs, accelerators, university entrepreneur, co-work spaces, incubators, SBDCs, and also university entrepreneurship programming. Some of those were at Cal Poly when she was the founding director of the Cal Poly SLO Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Others were when she left us in 2013 and moved to Colorado to pursue other activities along those same lines, including incubators, accelerators, and other particular programs. So Thea is going to be joining us. Welcome, Thea. But I'm also going to introduce Miquela Beall, who is the administrative assistant for Inyo County within the economic development aspect of the county. She is the lead on our Eastern Sierra Small Business Resource Project and establishment of that particular center. Previous to that, she has spent 5 years in tribal government. Ladies, welcome. Please join us and share your screens at this time. It's great to have you both aboard.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. It's nice to be here. So we will go ahead and.
Oh, you're going to rub it in a little bit, huh?
He is here. No, that's okay. We know you wanted to be here, Kelly. We fully believe that.
Well, I do miss all my friends and clients and all the community leaders, all the business organizations, our consultants, you fine people, all of you that I normally get to see when I come over. So next time.
Well, we volunteered you for lots of things in your absence.
That usually comes with the territory, doesn't
Yep.
it?
All the involvement. All right. So thank you again, Kelly. As Kelly said, we are here to talk about a project that has been brewing here on the east side for a number of years, has really catapulted and gained a lot of traction, amazingly enough, through the pandemic. So, we're really proud of the progress that we've been able to make, given all the constraints that, obviously the whole world has been dealing with. So we're here to talk about the Eastern Sierra Small Business Resource Center. I'm Miquela Beall, as Kelly mentioned, along with Thea Chase. Oh, that doesn't help. Okay, so the vision of the Business Resource Center, or BRC as we are lovingly calling it, is to be a welcome center for the region's businesses and entrepreneurs. We really, I think anecdotally always knew that this was something that we needed to help small businesses grow and establish and thrive here. The resources are here, the drive is here, the desire is here. We need a place that can bring all those things together so that people can access all of those resources and make those connections. So our goals and objectives, goal number 1 is to improve opportunity for living wage employment. That was the big driving force from the county perspective. For the past couple county administrative officers, Clint Quilter and Leslie Chapman, they really, living wage employment in Inyo County is, a big driver of this. Number 2, be a catalyst for the augmentation of the region's entrepreneur ecosystem. And Thea is going to talk to us more about the entrepreneurial ecosystem in a little bit. That's harder to say. It can be easier now. It's not easier.
It's a hard word.
Yeah. Establish a robust navigator program and supplement existing business development services to support entrepreneurs' desire for knowledge and access to resources. Secure access to sufficient capital resources. Celebrate the region's diversity and uniqueness through collaboration with tribes, Hispanic and Latinx communities. Advocate for all businesses and targeted market opportunities, and be an exemplary partner, collaborator, leader, and instigator on behalf of the small business and entrepreneurial communities. So how we got here, it starts with entrepreneurs, the people out there that really want to grow a business, start a business, have that entrepreneurial spirit. We kind of did things in conjunction. I always say the way this project came about, instead of, one train track with stops along the way, is we have multiple ones that are all kind of going at the same rate, just by the nature of how things turned out. First thing that we did was establish a working group, identify the partners, and establish a working group to really get the business plan going. We anecdotally knew what we needed, but we needed it on paper. We needed a plan. At the same time that was happening, we had a very lucky break by getting connected with an opportunity zone investor to actually secure a site for the BRC. Actually purchased the this opportunity zone investor purchased a building, one of the vacant buildings on Main Street. And so with the guidance and the blessing of county leadership, we got this project going. So there it is. So if any, those of you in Inyo County are probably very familiar with this site. It is the old, the former Crafters Mall next to Good Earth Yogurt right there on Main Street.
Great, thanks, Miquela. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what this Business Resource Center is going to do. So assuming that those of you that are on the call are either in business or are looking to start a business, this is really a center that is being built to serve you. So imagine that you're looking to start a business in Inyo County, and maybe it's a guiding business or something like that. It's like, where do you go and what are you curious about? The SBDC has a tremendous amount of resources, and the Business Resource Center will definitely be housing the SBDC in the office in Bishop that will serve both Inyo and Mono counties, which is going to be great because we'll have a lot more Kelly time, a lot more time for events like this. And other types of events as well. So we like to say it's going to be an SBDC on steroids. But if you're an existing business in Inyo County or in Mono County for that matter as well, you might be looking at how do you expand and what type of considerations do you have? Is it employment? Is it supply chain? And so what we're hoping to do is get you the access to the resources that you need in order to start and grow your company. So some of the things that we discovered along the way, so we did a lot of data mining, crunching, looking at existing studies and things. And then we also went out and interviewed a lot of the business owners in the community and the stakeholders in the community. And we found a couple of things. We found some low-hanging fruit. So I just wanted to share a little bit about this with you because this might help inform you as you're going forward to grow your company or launch your company. There's definitely an opportunity here to expand and diversify tourism. You all know, I'm sure, that the Bishop Airport is now going to be the hub airport for the region. And as it grows, there'll be ground transportation needs, there'll be tourist shopping opportunities, and just more recreation and activities that could be available here. Our research also pointed out that we have a significant amount of what we call leakage. So this is kind of how residents of this region spend their money and where they spend it. So a lot of people are spending money outside the area. Now that could be that they're driving to other locations to buy certain goods, or that could be that they're doing that online. But nonetheless, when you think about leakage, there tends to be a lot of opportunities for new businesses or for existing business to expand in those areas to kind of take up some of that leakage and have it spent here locally. We looked at also, we also noticed in our research a need for housing, commercial, civic construction development. And this is not a surprise to any of you that live here. There's certainly a lot of need for more housing and for commercial development. And this is both rehab as well as new construction. But then there's another piece of this that is kind of unique to this area. And you look, this is called here, it's called Environmental Science and Consulting Services, but we'll talk about it in another minute. And really, we're kind of encompassing this around this climate innovations cluster. There's a lot of attention, rightfully so, in the impact of climate change. And certainly this region is ground zero for a lot of that impact. As a result of that, there's a lot of public sector money, philanthropic money, private sector money that's being spent on things like forest restoration and stream and riparian restoration. Sustainable recreation development is a whole field that is really kind of it's really part of the fabric of tourism here in the Eastern Sierras. And there's a lot of activity going on here. So we really felt that part of the Business Resource Center's focus would be on kind of looking forward and capturing some of this opportunity. So all the money isn't, again, leaking out of the area, and that we can help to build companies here in the region that would engage in some of these activities. And a lot of it is, frankly, construction. And it's, dealing with the biomass that comes out of the forest and things like that. I mean, there's just so many different things that fall into that description.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we did a business plan, as all of you should, and we did that as well. And we came up with kind of like the way that we would describe it is there's these core activities. And again, going back to the relationship with the Small Business Development Center, business development is kind of part of the core. There's a lot of things that are just, real basic that all businesses tend to need, want, desire at certain times. And whether that's financial readiness training or basic business workshops or some coaching or counseling services and marketing or whatever, there's some real traditional stuff. So we really feel that this BRC will help to grow the resource base here locally. We're also going to be doing a lot of events and meetups. So we had our first one on Monday night and it was super fun. We had 5, maybe some of you were there. We had 5 local businesses that were on the panel, and we had 50, 60 people in the audience, something like that. And so it's great to hear the stories about how people got started and, kind of what were their challenges along the way? What did they do? It was amazing the amount of community here, community, when I say community, the support for each other. So this is a very kind of this ecosystem, as we describe it, this entrepreneurial ecosystem is very much a supportive culture of people helping people. So there's not oh, gee, I'm going to hold on to this and not tell you because you might be a potential competitor. There's really this great willingness to offer and share. And so events and meetups are a great way to network and get to know other people. And then maybe you would establish a relationship over time with them, and you would, share ideas, share customers, share, various parts of your business. But I mean, that's something that you definitely have going on in this region. That's really exciting. Mm-hmm. And out of that, we're looking at developing kind of a mentor program to go alongside what the SBDC can do. That might get you access to some of these successful entrepreneurs from the region and business people that have great experience that might be willing to offer that back to you and provide some support.
Yeah, I think one of the, it really solidified kind of one of the ideas that I've always felt about the BRC. A lot of the stories were, and even the networking afterwards had to do around, talking with people. Oh, I talked to so-and-so and they pointed me in this direction. And oh, I got help from this person or that person, and that's what we talk about with the Navigator program and the resources being there. Mm-hmm. But, not everyone knows who to talk to get extra equipment. Not everyone knows, people that have, that do, give microloans or give,
Exactly.
so
right.
Who, a centered place where you can go and ask those questions, and it's their job to connect you and point you in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, that's the hope of this BRC. It would be this navigation, so you want to find something about this. So maybe they do it, maybe they don't do it, but they know who to do it. And they're also going to work with the other people in the community that serve as navigators. And that might be the Chamber of Commerce or the Workforce Center or community college or a bank or whatever that, you tend to ask questions of. And we want to make sure that they're armed with the tools that they need and the resources they need in order to answer your questions. Some of the things that the BRC will also do, which may not be something that's right at the top of your mind, but is for rural areas for sure, is that in rural areas you really are a bit isolated. We know that. I mean, that's kind of why we're here, right? Because we like that. But there's a lot of resources that are out there in the region and in the state and in the federal system that are all supposed to be available to you. And as Kelly spends in the SBDC spends all this time every week in helping you to understand what resources are out there, the BRC is also going to be an advocate and a catalyst for this region so that we make sure that the resources you need are actually present and that you can access them. So that's another major role of the BRC.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to point out that the SBDC works in conjunction, but the BRC, was set up as a resource center purposefully to not only assist developing businesses or businesses that want to start, but established businesses as well, like we talk about through the entire life cycle of business, whether it's you want to, I think Thea mentioned like expand to online sales and I don't know how to do it, or, we've talked to a business owner that has a bakery that they want to expand into more of the commercial aspect to be able to sell, I don't even know where to get the equipment or how,
or succession planning, like we were talking about earlier today. A lot of established businesses, it might be, there's a whole thing about baby boomers wanting to retire out of their businesses, but they have no one to sell it to.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of family businesses that pass on. So a lot of these things are things that are on the radar. Yeah.
So definitely, what do we call it? A clearinghouse? What did we call it? We had a better name for a one-stop shop. I have this need as a business and I need some answers. Where can I go?
Right. So this is kind of a fun diagram. You've probably seen this in some of the sales training that you've had before, but this is our version of this funnel. The intent is that the BRC would be would be open to all, and that there'd be some things that would be of interest to every business existing as well as new businesses, but then also engage with our youth, right? Because that's where it all starts. And that over time that we'd offer programs that would be more intense, and that's what this funnel is about. So we would end up with more short programs and real intense programs that would be for people that are wanting to raise money or do business planning but there'd be things that would be available to everyone, and then there'd be more targeted things that would be more intense. We're also focusing in, as I mentioned, on a couple of initiatives and special projects. One is this resource development's capital resources. So it's access to capital. This is just a slide that kind of shows what kind of capital is most logical in different stages of businesses. But we looked at this and said, okay, well, where are the gaps in this region? And we discovered, some gaps are in kind of this micro loan or this under 50K, maybe under 100K. Maybe banks aren't really doing that because the paperwork is too much. And then, and so we're kind of working on trying to make sure that if it's the BRC that does it, great. If it's other organizations that have this available, that we make sure that they're present locally to service the companies here. We're also looking at investment capital too. So angel investors, venture money, things for high growth companies that are looking for that more risky capital. And this is just another kind of description of what this climate innovation cluster is. So the community is working together on quite a few projects, and you'll hear more. So we'll be having a mailing list. So we have a website that's under development, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you want more information about this, if you're in this space that we might call it, we're going to be doing our next meetup around kind of this space, and it looks like it's going to be in early May. So stay in touch. And then we're also going to be working very intensely with our American Indian community. Obviously, it's a huge portion of the population. And in Inyo, there's an opportunity for us to help potentially in the setup or the training of the businesses that might go into this kind of 4-unit retail spot. So just wanted to let you know about that. And this is our timeline. We're starting now. We did our first event on Monday. And so we're looking at making sure there's more SBDC training and coaching available here right away, and that we're getting navigators kind of teed up. We've got a working group that's now an implementation group. And so we're working on this and looking to raise some money to help fund our staff positions. So this is, I love throwing this out there because you got to remember that just like you guys are trying stuff and seeing if it sticks, we are too. And so we're going to try stuff and see if it sticks. And we really are looking for your feedback to see what it is that you need and want in order to help your business grow in the region.
Okay, thank you, Thea. So next steps for the BRC. Again, we have multiple train tracks going at the same time. So the site is getting, has started with some basic demo, some minor clearing out all the pegboard that was in the Crafters Mall. You know, there's fascia things, there's, you know, some bones things that, you know, of the building that we're working on. We have a separate subgroup that's working on design and layout, you know, how the center needs to be set up to best meet our goals. So everything is a process on that, you know, and it's constantly fluid and it's constantly moving. So luckily we have a really great team on the implementation group that has a better design brain than myself. I don't know which side it is that does the artistic and design stuff, but I think with the other one. So luckily we have people that are helping us with that. And again, we're in the process, like Thea showed on our activity timeline, we're working on operational funds. We are working on the structure and laying out the programming. We are working with SBDC to, you know, get the training and the partnerships going. So we have a lot of irons in the fire, but we do plan on holding another meetup, like we said, in early May, targeted around climate innovation. And our webpage is being developed through the Inyo County website. So inyocounty.us. Soon you will be able to go to the business tab and find the page for the BRC. We have an email set up for the BRC, super creative, brc@inyocounty.us. So any questions or comments, please feel free to email that email directly. We'll have links on the webpage to directly do questions and sign up for mailing lists to be able to get all this great info that we're going to be getting out to the community in the upcoming months.
Yeah, and we'll put that email address in the chat. So
that's super hard to remember, but we will make sure to get it in there. So everyone can
see at
inyocounty.us.
Okay, that's really, that's the first quiz of the day.
Yeah. Where's the poll?
Right. Where's the poll? Okay, back to you, Kelly.
Oh no, I didn't like that. No.
Outstanding.
No, there we go.
Absolutely outstanding. Okay, let's have a discussion now because there's a lot of points you brought up that I want to talk about a little further. One of the things that I don't think that I'm really excited about this, that is the long-term aspect of this project. And that involves including training that starts at K through 12. So can you touch a little bit on the K through 12 aspect? There has been a major commitment to the working group with K through 12 and kind of the aspects. We understand it doesn't pay immediate dividends, but long-term, I mean, there's some really great aspects of including that.
Yeah, so one of our partners is, well, a couple of our partners. So we are partnering with the Job Spot that is also on Main Street, and it's up and running through the Inyo County Office of Education and Inyo County Superintendent of Schools Office. So, you know, there's definitely I think there's an understanding or a growing movement, how it's always been something, my understanding, you know, being born here, being raised here, this aspect or idea of growing your own. You know, again, we all know that we have limited space here, we have limited housing, which is good and bad, right? You know, if you have unlimited space for housing and development, then you lose that aspect that makes Bishop and the Owens Valley and the whole region unique. But it does make it harder or a little bit more challenging to get the businesses, to get the growth, to get all of that in the entrepreneurial sense. So this idea of growing your own is, I think, one of the foundational reasons of getting the schools involved, right? Like really advocating and identifying entrepreneurs, out of the gate, right? I mean, one thing that we noticed at the meetup is there is a lot of, entrepreneurship isn't for just, it's also a younger game, right? Like there were a lot of younger entrepreneurs that are go-getters, and man, they are out there and they've got their business and they are, they're grinding, they're making it happen. So, to get that aspect out there, starting with the schools and also starting with, training outside of maybe the traditional college route, that's partnering with the jobs about, that's part of the climate innovation. The partnership that's going to happen is workforce development is one of the big reasons to, partner along those lines. We also want to get in there with, and Thea can speak more to this, with the contest and the.
Yeah. It's really, like that's something that kids respond to a lot, whether it's like a 4th grade innovation challenge, right? Where they're inventors and they're coming up with problems and solutions to problems, and they're demonstrating that through designing like what we call a minimum viable product, MVP, with like pipe cleaners and paper toilet rolls. I mean, it's this creative juices that when you get that going in the youth, and it's around creative decision making and exploration, and so that does lead to the next generation of entrepreneurs. So that's kind of the reason for it.
Yeah, and those are skills that even if you don't start a business, you carry with you into the workforce, and you're a better employee because of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, one of my favorite subjects of all time is access to capital. And we did touch a little bit on the capital resources. And this has been, I know, a challenge, particularly in rural areas and particularly in the Eastern Sierra. Had a number of banks close, and the big banks that moved really didn't do much anyway. So I think that there's a lot that's going to be going on. And Thea, you touched a little bit about some of the equity projects that are going
right.
But let's have a discussion about the equity, and let's talk a little bit more about debt and some of the long-term funding resources that hopefully will be coming to the area out of the BRC.
Yeah, no, Kelly, and you and I've had lots of conversations around this, and this is a big issue, especially in rural areas all over the country for sure. Is you've got to have the capital with the structure and the terms that's appropriate for you when you're doing different things in your business, right? And one of the things that we find as advisors to business is oftentimes businesses will misfinance assets, we call it, so they might use like a short-term credit card to finance a long-term piece of equipment. And that's misfinancing, right? There's also different problem or challenges when you don't have like a year's worth of history and a lot of personal collateral that you can put up for a loan, but you've got a great business idea that has good potential, and you've done a lot of what we call validation around that. So there's reasonable assuredness that that's there. Well, you might be much more eligible, or might be better for you to get what we call angel funding, or have an investor take some risk to provide you with some of that seed money or that early stage money that helps you to grow. So our job as ecosystem people is to make sure all those different pieces of capital are available to businesses so that they have those options, and not just available, but that you know about it and that you know how to access it and you know how to use it. I mean, that's our job, is to help you help with that linkage. And so that's kind of what, Kelly and I are talking about, is what we call, the capital stack. It's like filling out the capital stack for your region and getting the players and the pots of money available and getting you ready to get access to them.
Yeah, and I'm really hopeful that we can do more in debt and with, even crowdfunding. We saw a great project by Jim Thompson a couple of years ago on a crowdfunding project, just a Kickstarter project that he did for fun, and it turned into $37,000 of pre-orders, and using all that. it always looks so promising, crowdfunding, and it just is a lot of work, but it needs to be demonstrated that it can actually be a great capital source.
Yeah,
Then
it's
the
a super,
banks
yep.
and other lenders are going to be following it.
Yep.
That's really something I see out of the BRC, is that continued advocacy for more access to capital and more lenders getting involved in doing certain projects in the Eastern.
Yep. Yep, good point.
Okay, so one of the great things I think about of having the BRC and having a one-stop is that I think a lot of the employment training programs from America's Job Center and then locally are not utilized to the extent that they should be. And I know that's only one tool. There's several tools that the BRC maybe will create greater outreach for. So I guess my question along those lines is, or at least for discussion, what resources do you see beyond, say, employment training or even within employment training that are going to be accessible through the BRC?
I would say, actual employment training is probably going to be handled by one of our partners, right? I think when we talk about like the workforce development or even expanding technical skills of business owners, current business owners, and new business owners is, let's see, so, bringing in those trainers, we've identified an area where we're having multiple people that have this need. Okay, great, let's bring in a trainee, let's bring in a consultant, and let's, that can talk to a group about meeting this need.
Yeah, for example, the management training, because that was one of the things that, in this area, where you do have housing challenges, and it's hard to recruit people to come and take positions in your businesses. Well, then the other option is training your people. And so it's almost like bringing the training to you. So I think what Miquela is saying is that we're gonna, BRC is gonna be more hyper-focused on what type of training needs do the businesses need for their employees that we can connect with Siracoso or one of our partners, JobSpot, in order to help that happen. But then, management training and some of the key areas that we all need to know as we run businesses would be something that maybe we would work with the SBDC to do.
Great. As far as challenges, what challenges do you see facing from a business perspective on the Eastern Sierra?
For businesses or for the BRC?
I would say for both.
I'll
just throw it all out there.
All the challenges.
I know for one, the one that's, the 800-pound gorilla that probably nobody wants to talk about is, sorry, I have to have my phone on these days, is the actual lack of private land, for one. So. Right.
Yeah. Well, and certainly that's a challenge that we've heard about in our work to do this business plan was, the lack of private land. But then there's also, on the flip side of that, there's a lot of buildings that are worthy of renovation that are sitting there. So, I don't know that I sign up for that being a huge, that's it's a thing to know and understand, but I would point to problems or challenges like supply chain in a rural, remote area where the cost of goods tends to be higher and the supply, the amount of trips that are coming down here with, with the supplies you need in order to do and carry out your business. I think those would be the challenges I would talk about, Kelly. That and the access to capital would be challenges. The proximity to markets would be challenges, not unsurmountable. There's, in the time that I've spent here, there's some really creative businesses that are able to do this and, that are able to make it work in environments like this and actually use this environment as an asset rather than an impediment. So, and labor force, like we talked about, is always a challenge that people point to.
Yeah, and from challenges come the opportunities, right? Even at the meetup on Monday, we asked that question to some of the panelists, what were the unexpected challenges, right? There are challenges you can, I'm sure, anticipate. starting a business, but what were some of the, you know, unexpected ones, and what did you do about it? You know, and the sharing of those stories, that real life experience is really, again, one of the foundational concepts, building blocks of the BRC. Again, that in of itself is a resource to get connected to. You know, oh, how did you know? I want to start a business, but I don't know how to ship out of here. Like, well, let's get you in touch with so and so because they're doing it. You know, and that's definitely one of the main things that I see the BRC doing.
And we are going to end on opportunities. So my last question or focus point would be a lot of the opportunities out there, and you've mentioned a lot of them with the airport and the increase in tourism and a lot of the other factors. One of the things that I think is exciting is this large scale fire mitigation project. And it's for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you had a fire 2 weeks ago right outside of Bishop or so in February after having a disastrous fire 5 years ago in January. So obviously from a public safety standpoint, it's huge, but also from a small business aspect of creation and the work that would be done in doing that, those services and the environmental work that you've talked about, and the environmental opportunities.
Right.
Anything on that you'd like to elaborate on?
Well, you know, it's just the more and more we dig into it, the more and more opportunities there are. You know, it's just super exciting. I mean, the donut project is going to be a center point to it. It's, but I mean, you know, you take a tree down, you got to do something with the waste, right? And so you do something with the waste, and and you got to get that waste out of the, you know, out of the area that's very remote. All these things are, innovation is being applied, right? And so all of this is happening here, but it's happening in other areas too. So then this area has this ability to become like the expert or like the center for innovation around some of this, you know, these larger issues, which are facing our, you know, our entire world, right? So it's really a big area, and it spans everything from kind of your environmental, technical planning resources to actual production and manufacturing of goods that might come from some of the waste products. So, you know, it spans a lot of things. I see it as a huge opportunity, and so we're lumping a lot into it, but that's because it's all connected by the center core.
Outstanding. Okay, so any final comments?
Where's that email
Parting
address?
shots. Any parting shots?
BRC at Inyo County.us, and just email that email, and you can get on a mailing list. There will be a website up soon, and so we're super excited to have you connect with us.
Well, great. We will send that out, as we generally will send out our resources, and we'll have that on there to those that registered, and the recording of this for the half of the people who signed up who don't attend. And if you go to the chat right now, you'll see where Maureen has put in brc@inyocounty.us. But those resources will be coming later. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
It's I'm really proud of all the great work that's been going on, and can't wait to get over there. And the next meetup being in early May would be the first week is during U.S. Small Business Week. So something else to celebrate as well.
Well, yeah, we do it. That's we're doing it. That's when we're doing it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both so much. Look forward to continued progress on this great project, and thanks for joining us.
Right, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all that you do.
We'll see both
Thank
of
you.
you soon, I hope. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up today. For Miquela Beall and Thea Chase, I'm Kelly Bearden. For our executive producer, Maureen Busher-Dang as well. That wraps up number 105. We'll be back next week for number 106. We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye now.